This is GamesAtWork.biz, your weekly podcast about gaming, technology, and play. Your hosts are Michael Martin, Andy Piper, and Michael Rowe. The thoughts and opinions on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests alone and are not the opinions of any organization which they have been, are, or may be affiliated with.
This is episode 560, Sweating the Small Stuff. Hello, welcome again to our podcast, GamesAtWork.biz, which is also your podcast, your weekly technology podcast,
yes,
because we record this for you to listen to learn from. My name is Andy Piper. I have got my two friends, Michael Rowe and Michael Martin, with me. What we do on our show is we look at the links from around the web for the week that's just passed. We think about them in terms of how they might affect gaming technology and how it interacts with the world of work, how it interacts with collaboration online, and just generally cool stuff. And that's what we are. That's who we are. And as I mentioned, I have Michael and Michael with me. Michael Rowe, how are you?
I am well, a little warm here, but nothing. Little fan and AC.
You've got the heat dome, right?
Yes, we do.
The heat dome has migrated across the Atlantic to you all now.
It is supposed to hit 100-something today and stay in the hundreds for Fahrenheit. At least 5 or 6 days, which is insane. Michael, welcome back. How are you?
Hey there. I am great and glad that we're not in Texas because they get days like this and weeks and months like this. So I'm feeling grateful, but also on the warm side. And boy, we've got a lot of things to deal with the heat in this particular episode. So let's dive in and kind of cool off if we can.
Why not?
The very first article it deals with I'd like to say friend of the show, although that's kind of a long-term thing because the last time Ian Bogost was actually on the show, gentlemen, was in August, a very hot month of 2012.
A while ago.
Just a little bit.
That shows how long we've been around.
We've been around for a little while. That was episode 17. We talked about cow clicker and a variety of other things on that particular episode. And he's moved on from Georgia Tech. He's moved on in a lot of ways. And he's written a book that there's an article on TechCrunch with an interview with him about the small stuff and about dematerialization. And I just found this to be awesome. Andy, why don't you take us through what you were seeing? And
first of all, I would just clarify that Ian has gone obviously backwards from our show to a little outlet called TechCrunch to do a video interview there. I have to say I spotted this when it came across my radar and thought, I know that name. So I had to drop it into our list. Yeah. I'm looking forward to reading the book. I think I genuinely do want to get this one. It's obviously very aligned to some of the reading I've been doing over a number of years from Cory Doctorow. He even calls him out in the interview.
Yep.
And he talks about this cluster of books. But that this one is less angry. It's more about how we still want to think about the obsession with tech and all the things that it can bring us, but we also want to think about like life and
community and people
right, exactly.
and tactile experiences, right?
Tactile experience, as you know, is right where I live, right? I mean, I literally do pen plotter art, so I do think that is this sounds really exciting to me.
Yeah, I'm going to be on vacation soon, and I'm hoping to have this ordered in my hands in time to add it to my reading list for that. My feeling too is very much the way he described in his article dealing with stick shifts in cars and the response that generated reminded me very, very much of not just my personal preference for stick shift vehicles. And luckily I still have one that's operational, but also all the tactile discussions that we've had about buttons and not screens in automobiles too. not to be constrained just to automobiles, but the whole idea of where does friction exist in people's lives, and when the absence of that friction then turns into annoyance when that frictionless experience doesn't work properly, like in an airport restroom where everything is a hands-free experience, and it doesn't work properly, what kind of feelings you get for that sort of thing.
I'm going to let Michael Rowe come in just a second. Before I let you say anything, Michael, something else that caught my attention in this discussion with TechCrunch about his book is he refers to the telephone. Now, I kind of hate the telephone. I mean, I've never really enjoyed having to physically pick up a phone and make a call or even receive a call. But I love the concept of the telephone, and I love what he's talking about with this physicality of the telephone. And one of the fun things that I'm going to be doing, you're talking about being on vacation soon. I'm going to be going in 2 weeks' time to Electromagnetic Field again, which happens every 2 years. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that Electromagnetic Field does as a camping festival in a field is it runs a telephone network, a physical telephone network. And I've bought a handset because I didn't own one, one that you have to plug into the network by cable, and then you have to register on the network, and you can do some fun things with it, including programming apps and things, and having dial a fact kind of apps and fun things like that. But because you don't know what the network reception for the internet might be like in the middle of that field. Hopefully it's going to be decent. It usually is. It's got a good fiber connection. But we do have, as a community of however many thousand campers, our own little contained telephone network. And I kind of love that as well. So there's a kind of a retro, there's a physicality, there's a kind of also like, why are we still doing this? But it's also that rewind to that physical experience and the communal experience of people using it together in that context, if that makes sense. That we're all showing up with our tents and our camper vans, and many of us, I think there's already lots of hundreds of phone numbers that have been registered on the network 2 weeks in advance of the event. And people are obviously trying to get their favorite words as their phone number, Yes. So I've got Andy P, and we've got F&C or FANC as our kind of Forge and Craft as our village phone number, because we want to do a snappy kind of thing. We couldn't get plot. We wanted plot for pen plotter, but it turns out the plot stands for parking lot, which I got upset about because it should be a car park. But then if it was carp, people pointed out that it might be fish related.
Yes.
So anyway, sorry, I've gone completely off on a tangent, which is what we do here. Michael Rowe, hello.
So yeah, I actually enjoyed this article, and like both of you, I do enjoy Ian's stuff. I had a couple of reactions on the stick shift. First of all, yes, I love driving stick shift. I used to have one. I haven't had one in a very long time, but it's enjoyable. At the same time, I'm on the exact end, on the other side, with an EV, which has no need for stick shift in any shape, form, or fashion, because it just doesn't logically make sense. You're not changing gears. It's a direct drive. And so there's no need for it. And I like that too. And so as we were kind of going through the physicality of things and things we like, it's funny because I have this and I like all the physical stuff, but I also like all the pure
software.
Virtual stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The electronic stuff. I like VR, but I like going to physical locations, all, things of that nature. And then when you got into the telephone discussion, I was thinking, we still have a handset, because we still have a POTS system here in the house.
Yeah.
And so does my mother-in-law. And the problem is, in the U.S., like most countries, they're trying to get rid of the POTS system because copper is worth something and it's expensive to maintain. However, legally, they are not allowed to in the state of North Carolina because of various things like hurricanes. Where there's a hurricane, Fiber goes out because it needs electricity going to it for it to work. Battery backups only run for so long before they go out, etc. And the POTS system uses a very, 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 very small amount of current that goes over the copper wire.
The plain old telephone network, for those of you who don't know what a POTS network is, that Michael's pronouncing there.
It's the plain old telephone system or service. Because it's POTS with an S, not an N. Yeah. I think it's service, but anyway, it doesn't really matter.
System. Anyway.
It's so there's this interesting dichotomy of liking both ends of the spectrum that I find very interesting. This will probably be in my list of books to read eventually. I've decided recently, however, to go back to reading fun books. I've been reading so many business technical books, etc. And right now I'm reading Volume 2, which is Book 3 and 4 of the Murderbot books.
Oh, right.
Which is loads of fun, as well as some more Expanse books. So I'm sci-fi, fun, goofy book reading right now, and really enjoying it.
Okay. I mean, I've become aware of Murderbot because of the show, which I haven't watched, but I've seen various stills from and I wasn't really aware of the books, but interesting, good to know.
So so speaking of camping and heat and books, last week I was in the mountains of North Carolina, and I was camping for 3 nights, 4 days, and it is a rainforest there, so naturally it was raining for most of the time. I've got a video that it's about 8 minutes in length about Mountain Quest and kind of sort of the high level of what we did, Yamabushi hike and the black belt testing and such that was going on. And funny enough, talking about books that reading, the one that I've been reading for fun because of the dojo is the light reading of Sun Tzu's Art of War. And the fun fact in there that I love the most is
Which translation?
Yeah, this is the one from John Minford. Okay. And what I liked about
one I read
was the idea of speed and how this relates to agile development. And the insight that I brought out of it was you're always going to have mistakes, and course correction is the norm. So what better way to course correct than to take 2 moves to your opponent's 1? So speed becomes really important with the recognition that you're going to do things that are not exactly 100% there. So fun stuff. I'm sure agile development was not on the mind of Sun Tzu when he was writing what he was writing. Having said that, let's move on to the makers, and we're going to aim to stay cool with some cool stuff here. And the very first thing that we have is a helmet. And Michael, I want to turn to you for this one because we always talk about helmets and helmet related stuff for you, even though Andy found this one. How would you describe the airflow, cubic airflow per minute of this helmet?
Well, I don't know the exact statistics on it, but it's funny. Years ago, gosh, I want to say 2015, I was working with research at the time around high stress environments and looking at sensor data on equipment of employees in like steel factories, etc. And the stressors that they have, so that they require specific breaks around certain time periods for health reasons. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I saw this helmet, my first reaction was, this looks like some of the stuff they were playing with back then. So basically, they've taken what looks like a typical construction worker hard hat and cut out holes in it, and then in those holes they've attached look like little CPU fans, like a lot of little CPU fans, and are trying to reduce the temperature for the person who might be getting hot-headed. And what's funny is Wednesday, today's Friday, Wednesday, we actually went out to the Duke Lemur Lab and spent a day out in the hot sun at Duke University's Lemur Center, And I made sure I had a hat for the heat, but it was a mesh hat so heat could radiate out, and an umbrella. And I was thinking this thing probably would have helped, but it would have scared the lemurs, as well as when we went into the dark area for the nighttime lemurs, we were required to be very quiet. And I cannot imagine this helmet being quiet at all. And I'll drop a picture in the show notes of my favorite lemur picture I took.
And your hat, maybe. Andy.
I particularly wanted to share this one because it's, as Michael just described, a hard hat with a bunch of holes drilled through it that have got CPU or other cooling fans attached to it, because it's also based on a Star Wars Force Trainer toy, which is an EEG type toy. So it's one of these things that, but
it doesn't shock you now, does it?
It doesn't. So the idea is that it's trying to detect some kind of strong brain activity, and then using that to detect and activate the cooling fans, because you're using your head a lot. So I kind of love it from that perspective. It's obviously utterly silly, and because it's utterly silly, it looks also kind of cool and kind of nutty professor-ish. That was it was a combination of my maker fanishness and the fact that it was doing the Star Wars EEG stuff, because I know Michael Rose also played a lot with those kinds of headset. He's probably about to get up from his chair and go and
I almost reached down to the Emotive original headset that I have, like, within arm's reach, but it's so old that I think all the sensors have rotted off by now.
Rotted off.
Well, I know you're a fan too, so that's also good, and that kind of factors in.
As our audio engineer, I am a fan, as everybody knows.
Well, yes, we all know that very well. So the next article actually deals with fans too, and this is a way of harvesting what might have otherwise gone in the electronic waste heap. But there is expensive components of it, and it can be refactored into a machine for those in the know and have the cooling chops to be able to put it all together. The Steam machine, Andy, was something you found, the BC250.
So the Steam machine is... lots of people have been very excited about this for a long time. It's been a long time kind of trailed. The whole concept, the fact that the Steam Deck was successful, it really gave them the opportunity to finesse the whole operating system around it, really optimize for some more, not completely commodity hardware, but relatively commodity hardware with Linux as an operating system. So they're not paying any fees to Microsoft. They've done a phenomenal job of getting a shim to work so that you could run most games on this now, with regardless of the fact that it's not Windows or whatever. But because AI and because economy and because world events, it suddenly became very expensive to build and ship hardware this year. Apple's just raised a bunch of prices as well. Now, one may argue that Apple has got one of the largest balance sheets on the planet and shouldn't need to be passing any costs on to consumers, but profit's going to profit. So
supply chain's going to supply chain.
Supply chain's going to supply chain. So exactly right. So and shareholders going to hold shares. So the whole thing here is given that the Steam machine is relatively commodity hardware, how can you build something that works really, really well? And what they've done is they've taken a bunch of kind of the old crypto cards that were being sold when they were going into these big farms for Bitcoin mining, and repurposed the hardware on that, which you can now pick up relatively cheaply because they've become less of an interesting thing to run. I also have heard of and I don't know if this was the same article. Was this the one that was the same hardware as is in the PS5, essentially? Yes, there you go. So it's this one is slightly or less about as powerful as a PS5. Some of these cards I think were essentially the same things as were in the PS5, but they were kind of seconds. So they had like one or two cores that weren't quite up to snuff. So they just got switched off, and people have now managed to figure out how to switch them back on. So. Which is why some of this is quite tricky to do. So people have become interested in how you could shave all of this down into a kind of shape that a Steam machine looks like, which is more or less a cube roughly half the size of an Xbox Series X, and do it yourself. So it's I think it's been really interesting. The Steam machine itself has gone on sale this week. They've had to do a lottery to avoid scalpers. So you had to sign up to be entered into a lottery to be allowed to join the queue to order one. And at that point, you were kind of like on the hook for one. And
so you got to commit to buy, and then you're allowed into the queue, and you can maybe get into the winning. Yeah.
You might have a chance of a lottery ticket to get one. And of course, they're pretty expensive because of the memory, more than anything else. So this is a really nice, fun build. I think what they've done here is really interesting, and again, it points to the fact that a lot of this is commodity stuff. You run a Linux OS or Steam OS on top of it, good to go. Sorry.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of stories over the last week on the memory crunch pricing, etc. And one of the things that is frustrating right now is we've got a challenge in that what's happened due to the popularity of AI, and of course we've got our obligatory AI section at the end of the show this week, that NVIDIA now has become the big mastermind controller of the supply chain, because they are the big kid on the block, not Apple anymore. So TMC and the rest of the chip companies are being kind of driven by the desire for AI chips now, which is causing a ripple effect. And there was a story, the head of Micron, I think it was, one of the memory manufacturers was saying,
used to be the consumer brand used to be called Crucial, but they basically killed it because But
they were complaining, saying, well, if we hadn't been squeezed these last few years, we could have had the capacity. And it's like, no, if you were gotten more money, it would have gone, to your point, Andy, to shareholder value and everything else. They would not have built out capacity because they didn't need capacity at the time. Right. And so it's I think the best quote was, supply chain's going to supply chain right now, and we're just feeling the pain because for years and I don't want to defend Apple because we are all having enough problems with them today, but they kept their prices flat for years. The new phones were always the same price. The new machines were always the same price, which meant they were managing their supply chain. And so now they're going to make up for it because they got to keep their margins, as they said. So, but I do find it interesting on the Steam Deck, because people are saying, oh, you guys promised it was going to be this price, and now you're finally shipping it, and it's a lot more. It's like, yep, supply chain's going to supply chain, right? They're squeezed like everybody else. It's not a one company thing. It's an entire network of issues going on right now for us. And we just got to figure out how to work it through until next time when we get a big glut of something, which then changes prices again. But prices never go down.
Yeah, and it's the memory right now that's causing all the good fun stuff too. That was just a differentiator before, but now that really has a big impact on price.
Memory and storage.
Just the chip.
Yeah. I mean, storage is beginning
because everyone's gone to SSDs, which are big memory chips.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Well, we should put a link into the show notes so you can, if you really want your Steam Deck and you want to pay money to get on the list, and maybe you get a chance to pay it, you can click through from us. So it'd be nice if we could do an affiliate link for that, but I don't think that's going to work.
I don't think we're allowed in North Carolina, so we'd have to do it on Andy.
We'd also not be allowed to have our website blog statistics anymore, Jetpack thing, because they won't let you have it. We can't have the Jetpack plan we're on if we're doing anything that's commercial, it turns out.
Oh,
I had to write a letter saying, look, we have no advertising. We are penniless middle-aged men.
Penniless podcasters. Let's see if we can all spit into our mics.
Please give us our statistics, because we don't know who listens to us.
Yeah, we don't know. But if you do,
if you want to, you could rank us, rate us,
send us stuff to talk about.
Drop
anything.
Us an email.
Yeah.
Comment on a blog post.
Or you could tell us that you spent money for the Kickstarter on this super deluxe cool watch.
Oh, what a transition. Look at that. Look at how
that.
Michael just slid us over to the next thing on the agenda there.
Yeah, this is a complications watch here, Michael, that you found on Gear Patrol, didn't you?
Yeah, and what's really funny, as we've been saying, Apple's going to Apple. As soon as I clicked on the link, my browser froze. So
it could be your pie hole. You never know. Could be.
It could be. But the funny thing is, so this is a unbelievably expensive new watch that's trying to be. To me, it looks like a combination mechanical / smartwatch that kind of looks like an Ultra.
Apple Watch Ultra
not really.
Does, yeah.
So, and I just thought it was interesting, and Andy and I traded some barbs back and forth a little bit because the article is like, this is the only Kickstarter you want to back or some crap like that. It's like, no, we're both backing other Kickstarters.
You could probably create a watch face like this for an Ultra, with the form
No, you
factor.
can't, because Apple doesn't allow you to build a watch face.
Well, yeah, I know that. Or you would create a picture that looked like this.
Actually, I mean, we should basically just immediately add this to the next Watch OS and say nobody needs that watch.
Going to Sherlock the Kickstarter.
The funny thing is, though, oh God, what was it? There is an app that basically allows you to do custom watch faces on the Apple Watch that I tried, but basically it uses snapshot images and becomes a full screen app, and then is like 5 or 20 times a second updating the snapshot, and you can put whatever you want on it.
Whatever you want?
Whatever you want. However, the basic of it was pretty lame, and to get any of the cool stuff, you had to pay, I think it was like $2 a month or $3 a month, and I'm like, I'm not going to subscribe to do a watch face.
I do think this watch looks really cool. I think it looks completely impractical for my lifestyle. It's a design piece rather than anything useful to me that I was going to spend the $379 on, which they're asking for. But I also am wondering whether I go Apple Watch again. I mean, both my iPhone and my Apple Watch are 2 or 3 years old this year, and I haven't upgraded recently. And yeah, I'm just wondering whether I keep it on, to be honest.
You're getting out of the ecosystem anyway, so
I've been moving out of it slowly. I mean, I've still got all the things, but the ecosystem as a whole hasn't been working for me.
Yep.
For a while. So yeah, we'll see.
It just works, not.
No.
Well, something that is working right now is the England and US World Cup teams. So at the time of recording, both of these country teams are still involved in the hunt for the trophy at the end, which is kind of cool.
That's because they both support games@work.biz, just not financially.
Right. Well, at least they have citizens that support, right? So that maybe that's helpful too. But we have a World Cup element here about how you can use the World Cup countries that are in from the round of 32, right? To choose a metric and then vote who you think is going to win the World Cup against that metric, and kind of watch it all play out to the finalist.
Yeah, I saw this, and we talked before the show that there's lots of things at major contests, time periods, where people do data visualization like this. I just thought this one was really cool because, I mean, World Cup, I like soccer, and I'm enjoying the tournament, even though 2 of my favorite teams are already out, and one required and one, I would say, okay, are still in. So it's been a fun World Cup. I've been enjoying the matches.
It's been a bit, as we record, it's Friday, the 3rd of July, and the next England game is at 1 a.m. local time on Monday against Mexico. And the current
in Mexico City,
the current drama locally is that the authorities have given permission for pubs to open through 1 a.m. through 5 a.m. Which to allow people to watch and drink, and that has caused at relatively last minute. That's caused a lot of concern with especially the authorities as well, other authorities, the police and so on, in terms of disruption. So by the time you listen to our show, England may or may not still be in the competition, and the USA has got a game the following day on Tuesday. So, but if you listen to us midweek, then all of this may be irrelevant. But it's
other
quite
than
a nice
the website,
game.
which is still kind of cool.
Data Guesser. I hadn't come across this before, and I played it a few times here using the democracy index, the life expectancy, the gender equality, and I got a couple of guesses right in terms of which countries might win on that basis. But yeah, it's funny because one of the game on Tuesday, America's against Belgium, and that's come up a couple of times somehow in my as I played through the Data Guesser rounds. So
yep, that happened here too.
Hey,
all right. So we're gonna wrap up here by not talking in depth because we are at time, but we do have that obligatory AI element that Michael spoke about, and that is from 404 Media. Very thorough and interesting treatment about how companies are now beginning to restrict the amount of tokens that people are consuming. So we've gone from token maxing to token economics to even people whose jobs are looking for ways to restrict or minimize the expenditure on tokens because the price point's going up so fast and it's not an all-you-can-eat bargain anymore.
Well, and the other story, which is related very, very quickly, is that's been out this week, is the so-called greybeards that have been rehired by Ford because they fired a ton of people, engineers, and planning to AI the whole system, and then figured out that the institutional knowledge, actual physical skills of these individuals was sufficiently important that they've now had to rehire the folks that they've laid off. So not only is the tokenpocalypse restricting access for the tech companies who have been all in on it, it hasn't been working out so well in some other industries as well.
Yep.
Oh, well.
All right. Well, with that's a great way to end. So we shall see what happens next week, everyone. Drop us a line.
Our show tokens have run out.
Our tokens have run out. It is that time. So if you wanted to deposit another token, please do. And if you want to send us something to chat about for next week, we would love to hear all about it from you at gamesatwork.biz. See you, everybody. Bye.
You've been listening to gamesatwork.biz, the podcast about gaming technology and play. We are part of the Blueberry Podcasting Network, and would like to thank the band Random Encounters for their song, Big Blue. You can follow us at our website at gamesatwork.biz.